My dear students, let me come to the lesson that we have to study. It is titled, as I have said, Hagar, a story of woman in water, and it is written by Sarah Joseph. And I'm quite sure that you are familiar with the person, with the author, Sarah Joseph. Now, Sarah Joseph, and she is a very popular figure in Kerala, and she's a writer. Of course, there's a picture of Sarah Joseph. You can get any number of pictures, images of Sarah Joseph if you just Google it up. Now, she's a writer, a professor of Malayalam, and also a social worker, and even to an extent a political activist. She has written volumes of short stories. Her short story collections are Papattara, Kaadinte Sangeetham, Nanma Tinmaകളുടെ വൃക്ഷം. These are her short story collections. Now her novels include ആലാഹയുടെ പെൺമക്കൾ, മാറ്റാത്തി, ഒതപ്പ്, and Adi. Now the last novel, Adi, it is translated into English as Gift in Green. The story that you are going to study today is actually the second chapter of the novel Adi. Now she was recognized by various literary organizations and even by the state and central governments, and she has received the Kendra Sahitya Akademi Award, Kerala Sahitya Akademi Award, Vailar Award, Muttatuvarki Award, and Padma Prabha Literary Award. In 2015, she returned her Kendra Sahitya Akademi Award, citing her objections with the policies of the government and certain issues related to freedom of expression and the curbing of freedom of expression. That you can read more about her, about such issues, if you just Google about her. And of course, that should be done from your side because you should be participating in this learning process. And so I'm quite sure that you will be doing that from your side as well. And now let's move to the story, Hagar, a story of woman and water. Before we move on to it, we should have some idea about where the story is taken from. Now this extract that you are going to study is actually chapter 2 of the book Adi, or Gift in Green, written by Sarah Joseph, and it describes the plight or the miserable condition of Hagar in the wilderness. Now you might wonder who Hagar is, and we'll come to that very soon. And the themes of Adi, the major theme, I would say the major theme, there are many themes and sub-themes that are coming up in the novel Adi, and it's a very beautiful book. I hope some of you will find time to get it and read it. It's a beautiful book written by Sarah Joseph, and the major theme of this novel is water as a giver and preserver of life. When you read through the entire novel, you will find water being used as an image all through the novel as a giver and preserver of life. Now that is the theme of novel. Now let's come to the protagonist of the story, the central character of the story, Hagar. You might already know who Hagar is. Now Hagar is a biblical character, a character from the Bible, Old Testament. She was the Egyptian handmaid of Sarah, wife of Abraham, the Jewish patriarch. Now Abraham is considered the patriarch of the Jews, and even in Christian and Islamic belief systems, we have this same person, the head, Abraham. He has a wife, Sarah, and even in their old age they did not have any children, and God promised him that he would or his wife would give birth to children who will inherit the world, like the stars in the firmament, in the sky. But they were very aged, and so Sarah, since she knew that she was barren, she could not give birth, she offers her maid Hagar to Abraham as his second wife, and Hagar becomes pregnant. She bears a child, and the firstborn of Abraham is Ismail, Hagar's child. But soon after this, Sarah uh, becomes pregnant, and there arises a conflict between Sarah and Hagar, and in the end, Abraham abandons Hagar and her child in wilderness. Now, the story that you're going to study actually begins at this stage, at, at the at the point when Abraham abandons Hagar and Ismail in the desert, in the wilderness. And the story will be talking about the mental agony, the pressures that Hagar, had to undergo when she was abandoned by her husband in the wilderness. Now let's come to the plot summary. This is only a brief summary of the story. I suggest that you read the story because it's always better that you read it. The full effect of the story can come only when you read it, and that is what literature is all about. So kindly make it a point that you read it, but for the sake of convenience here, for the sake of presentation, I am just giving you a plot summary here. Now, the story of Hagar and Ismail and their miraculous survival in the hostile desert where Abraham had abandoned them. They miraculously escape or survive the very hostile condition of the desert. Hagar is anxious when she is abandoned, and when Abraham leaves the desert, leaving her and her child there. She's very anxious. Hagar is very anxious. She's anxious not just about her life, but also about Ismail, who is actually dying of thirst. All the water supplies are over. They don't have food and water there, and the child is crying its life out because it's thirsty, and she doesn't have water to offer. So she's very anxious about, of course, about herself and her life, and also more than that about Ismail and his life. Now, when she thinks about what is going to happen to them, she's almost sure that she's going to die, and of course her child also will die. Now the question arises in her mind, who will die first? Now when she thinks of her having to bury the child, she shudders. Just imagine the plight of a mother when she thinks, when she has a child who's dying of thirst and hunger. She can't provide water, and the child dies, and she has to, with her bare hands dig the mud or the sands and then bury the child there. It is a very heartbreaking situation for her. So she can't even imagine that situation. And then she thinks of the other alternative. Okay, the child doesn't die first, she dies first. Now that is even more frightening for her, because just imagine the plight that she is dead and her dead body is being eaten by vultures, and this innocent child who doesn't know what life and death is, it just knows the mother, and it will be crawling to drink from her, and the child will be left motherless and fatherless, abandoned completely in that very dangerous situation in desert. That was even more terrifying for her. She couldn't imagine her child crawling about the desert searching for her. Now this anxious situation, or this situation where she's utterly hopeless, is the time when God intervenes. As per the Bible or as per the Old Testament, God intervenes at this point, and a mysterious bird appears there, a mysterious appearance of a bird, which reveals a water spring that becomes the elixir of life for her and her baby. Now the bird comes there, and it just strikes on the ground, on the sand with its wings, and from there arises a spring of water, and from that spring of water she saves herself and her child. Now that intervention by the powerful, in the form of that mysterious bird, is what changes the destiny of Hagar and her child. And she settles there. The spring that came up there becomes a lake. It forms a lake there, and there are many nomadic tribes who are coming to this area. They want water. It's a desert, and there will be naturally people wanting to have water sources. And these nomadic tribes, who rear sheep most probably, they come to her asking for water. And an agreement, in fact the word that is used in the text is a water covenant. An agreement is reached between Hagar and these nomadic tribes. And the nomadic tribes, they promise to take care of the child and Hagar by providing them whatever they want. In return, Hagar promises them water which is available to her. And of course, when she makes this agreement, she makes a condition. She becomes the keeper and protector of the lake, because she knows the true meaning of that precious first drop of water. Now, that first drop of water is what gave her child and herself a life, and therefore she knows the value of water. And so she makes it a point that water is not wasted by these people, and therefore in the water covenant she comes to the agreement that she will hold the water, she will remain the owner of the water, because she knows the value of water. And the value of water is this: the first drop of water is as precious as the life of a child. Now, this is a point that we need to think about. We are getting water aplenty. We have, especially Kerala, we are blessed with water. In fact, at some points, in the recent history, we see that it has become disastrous even. Still, we have, compared to many other places, nature has blessed us with water sources. The question that we have to ask ourselves, especially as part of people who are concerned with environmental studies, because this lesson is included in your module Environment Matters. Therefore, the message that this story is trying to give us is very simple, but as we say, very powerful. The story is about a woman's endurance, persistence, and boundless generosity. So Hagar has gone through severe problems and severe crisis in her life, but she has endured it, and she is also very generous. She is not being very selfish. She is generously sharing the resources, the resources that nature has given her. The water resources, with her fellow human beings. So this endless, boundless generosity and the perseverance and endurance that a woman, Hagar, exhibits is one of the key messages of the story that we have to carry in our heart after we read this story. Also, we should remember this, that we take nature and its gift of water for granted. Now, to take something for granted, until you don't give much value to it. You know that it is there and it will be there, so you don't give much value to it. So we have such an attitude towards nature and natural resources, especially water. Since it is available in plenty, we take it for granted. And that if one is to have life and prosperity, this is the message. If one is to have life and prosperity in this world, nature, water, and other natural resources must be valued. Now, this is very important. We need to learn to value nature. I'm not talking about economic terms, economic values. I'm talking more about the riches that are given to us, that are provided to us, which we don't actually realize. So that is the message. If we want to have a prosperous life, a peaceful life, we should be aware that nature is providing us a lot of resources. We should be thankful for it. We should value it. That is the message that we have to carry. Nature sustains life and existence. We human beings, we exist here because nature permits it. Now just remember, a simple virus can lock us down. Now that is the situation. So nature actually sustains our life and existence. We should have that realization. We should not be mindless of the generosity, the bounty of nature. Like Hagar, we should value, respect, and protect nature. Of course, as we'll very soon see in the next lessons, or generally as part of this course, nature does not need our protection. We need to protect nature because we need nature for our existence. If we want to survive, if we want to have a peaceful life and prosperous life, we should learn to value, respect, and protect nature and its resources. And that is the message that we have to carry in our minds at the end of this lesson.